Please take your seats. The Secretary will read the third order.
Debate on Vote 12, Economic Development and Tourism, Western Cape Appropriation Bill.
I see Minister Windy.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, Premier, Cabinet colleagues, members of this legislature, heads of department, the staff of Economic Development and Tourism, citizens of the Western Cape, business leaders, entrepreneurs and job seekers. Honourable Speaker, in 2014, the people of the Western Cape entrusted us with the task of creating a vibrant economy in which they can participate to meaningfully improve their lives. And whether this participation is in the form of getting up every morning to go to work, or learning a new skill, or building a business that creates a livelihood for themselves and others, our task has been to ensure that these endeavours are possible. In the past year, our economy has encountered considerable challenges ranging from the impact of the drought to avian influenza, and it has felt the knock-on effect of the instability of our national politics. Both the Rand and the South African brand have taken a knock. But I'm proud to stand here today and say that because of our concerted efforts at building an economy that is diverse and resilient, more people in our province are able to get up and go to work each day. This is due to the enabling environment that we have created in our region, which has given the private sector the confidence they need to invest, and also to the programs we've put in place to help grow startup businesses, cut red tape, and to nurture the young. Technical minds that will help build our future. The drought has forced us to think about resilience. Speaker, Cape Town has become the model for international best practice in water saving. As we've more than halved our water consumption, and when we implemented the 50 litres per person per day limit. Speaker, perhaps what I must also say to the members of this House and those that are listening to us out there, that, of course, we have to continue doing this way into the rains of this winter. Because if we don't do that, we are going to have a similar problem next year again. And hence, of course, the 3-day T-shirt, although it's a blue one today, a new one, so you're all lucky it's day one. Speaker, businesses have also played their part. Yesterday, Sea Harvest in Saldanha Bay opened their desalination plant. Also in Saldanha, Oceana is developing their own desalination plants. In tourism, Speaker, Tsogo Sun and the V&A waterfront and many others have also made investments into the water economy or into their own resilience with regard to their own water supplies. These companies are investing in their own resilience and at the same time relieving stress on our water system. They're also at the forefront of kick-starting our new water economy. All of this reinforces our belief that saving water will help to safeguard jobs. Our number one aim has always been to create jobs, and the latest jobs numbers reflect our efforts. The most recent job statistics released by Stats SA show that the Western Cape has the lowest unemployment rate in South Africa, which at 19.5% is 7.2 percentage points lower than the national average. This is because in everything we do, we have not allowed ourselves to lose sight of why we do it. Giving the hard-working people of the Western Cape the opportunity they deserve to live better lives. Since we came into office in the Western Cape in 2009, 598,000 more people have jobs in this province. The number of people employed in the province increased by 106,000 on the year-on-year basis between the fourth quarter of 2016 and the fourth quarter of 2017. Speaker, the latest Bureau of Economic Research data released last week shows that business confidence in the province has improved dramatically, moving from 35 index points in December to 50 index points in March. This level of confidence has not been seen in our economy since 2016. This despite a once-in-400-year drought, which has cost our agricultural sector 5.9 billion rand, and which has challenged our tourism establishments to rally together with a strong message to maintain our visitor numbers. The Western Cape remains open for business, and there is a lot to be confident about in our economy. Tourism GVA grew by 2 billion rand, or 11% year on year. That's 11% when South Africa has really been battling to find 1% growth in our economy. This between the third quarter of 2016 and the third quarter of 2017. And we've created more than 26,000 jobs in the sector since the inception of Project Khulisa. International, regional and domestic arrivals at Cape Town International have all shown growth between December 2016 and December 2017, despite fears of a decline. These numbers are boosted by the sterling work of the Air Access team, which has managed to grow the number of inbound seats into the Cape Town Airport by 700,000 since their inception in 2015. This year alone, Air Access has secured new routes with 3 airlines, 6 route expansions, and connected Cape Town with 4 new destinations, all of which are set to add an additional 106,000 inbound seats. It is estimated that these new routes introduced this year alone will create an additional direct tourism spend of 620 million. And Speaker, it is only March. And I must thank the partners who've been involved in this initiative. It could not happen without partnership, and specifically the funders, the city, tourism, both in the city and at Westgrow, housing this, national tourism joining us as well. But of course, the other partner is AXA, our airport. And Speaker, 2 nights ago, our airport for the 3rd year in a row won the Best Airport in Africa award once again. And this despite these increased numbers. So they deserve massive congratulations. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. And we work very well with them. And in this program, so is South African Tourism, a national entity. And we work very well with them as well.
Order.
They are the one entity that hasn't been soured by Zuma for the last 10 years. We are delighted, Speaker, that President Cyril Ramaphosa, yes, he is our president, highlighted the importance of growing tourism in the country.
Order, members.
Speaker, I'll start again. And you can carry on. I've got lots of pages here.
Order. Allow the minister to speak.
Speaker, we are delighted that President Cyril Ramaphosa highlighted the importance of growing tourism in the country as a path towards creating more jobs. This has been at the heart of our Project Khulisa economic strategy for years, and we are eager to share our insights and lessons with him. We are also pleased to have Minister Derek Hanekom back as in the driving seat of this crucial portfolio. Minister Hanekom has expressed an interest in improving safety at our key tourism safety sites, and we look forward to collaborating with him in making improvements in this space. Partnerships between all spheres of government and the private sector are crucial in driving growth, Speaker. One of our plans to grow tourism in the province is by focusing on culture and heritage tourism. To this end, we have launched our Madiba Legacy Project. This project will trace former President Nelson Mandela's footsteps in the province and encourage tourists to follow them. In 1997, when he received the freedom of the city of Cape Town, Nelson Mandela said, "Cape Town's greatness not only lies in its contribution to our economy, but in its involvement in our country's history. It is time that we share this history with the world." In the coming year, we will honor former President Mandela through the creation of a public showcase of his life and the struggle against apartheid. And Cape Town City Hall, or at Cape Town City Hall, we have chosen the site specifically as it is where Madiba made his iconic first speech after his release. Speaker, and I'm just trying to see if our artists are here. Excellent. Speaker, we have artists Kanti Makapkama and Barry Jackson have been commissioned by the heritage experts of Koketso Growth to create a celebratory artwork of his image, which will be unveiled this year as part of the Nelson Mandela Centenary celebrations. This work is being undertaken in collaboration with the City of Cape Town and the Nelson Mandela Foundation. Thank you very much for what you are doing in creating this iconic piece that is going to be the anchor or the centerpiece of this new route celebrating and honoring Nelson Mandela. It is no secret that I'm an avid cyclist, Mr. Speaker, but my passion extends beyond just being in the saddle, because cycling has the ability to contribute sustainably to tourism and our economy. Especially if you look at a study in Oregon in 2012 that showed that cycle tourism generated $400 million for the state. It is estimated that in Germany, 10% of tourism revenues come from cycling tourism, which is why last year we launched the Cross Cape Cycle Route, which takes riders on a journey through many of our special small towns between Plettenberg Bay and Stellenbosch. This year we will be launching 2 new routes, taking cyclists on multi-day rides in other parts of our province, growing their economies through tourism and hospitality. But it is not just tourism that is impacted. There is a real need for new skills in the industry, ranging from bicycle mechanics to guides. In the new financial year, 6 young people from Kayamandi will receive training to become adventure guides. And Speaker, this month alone, in events, in cycle events in our province, the value of which adds up to 1 billion rand in this month alone. Another important part of growing tourism in our region is ensuring that travellers to our destination feel safe. Tourism in our province employs over 200,000 people, and it is our responsibility to build our city and our province's reputation. We must face the this important fact head-on to protect and grow employment in this crucial sector of our economy. We share the concerns of our residents and visitors about safety in the Table Mountain National Park, which is managed by a national entity. We are focusing on safety with renewed energy. We have budgeted R1 million for safety and security initiatives, which include proactive communications campaigns. We've identified Table Mountain National Park as a hotspot, and we're building partnerships with SAPS, the NPA, the rangers in the park, DOCS, the communities that surround the mountain, the users, and we're doing this all to build that partnership to ensure safety. Speaker, recently it emerged that a sophisticated syndicate of criminals was targeting tourists using ATMs in the Cape Town CBD. The information emerged via a task force created by provincial government specifically to investigate the issue after it was raised by concerned hospitality establishments. The task force includes the Cape Town Central Improvement District, the police, the City of Cape Town's law enforcement, the Provincial Department of Community Safety, Cape Town Tourism, and the representatives of the hospitality industry, banking and fraud investigators, and the National Prosecuting Authority. Speaker, we put this partnership together, and the Department of Community Safety deployed 14 officers to 7 ATM sites in the city between 15 December and 15 January. And DDAT supplied funding to keep them operational from January through to the end of February. During this 3-month period, members of the unit were able to stop 17 such incidences from occurring. The department will once again be rolling out the ATM fraud prevention project in the coming year in collaboration with DOCS and the CCID and the partners that I've mentioned. And it will help with 50 trained students from the Chrysalis Academy who will now be helping with this project as well. Thank you very much, Minister Fritz. DDAT has committed an annual amount of 1.26 million towards this initiative. The people who work, and I'm glad you'll monitor it, it's already showing massive success. The people who work in our tourism and service industries have an important role because they are our marketers and the front desk of the province. Thank you. Last year, we rolled out our Journey to Service Excellence program in Saldanha Bay and Longabon, after piloting it in Clanwilliam in 2016. Through the J2SE, as it's called, we offered hospitality training to locals from all sectors, and we awarded businesses for service excellence. The overall winner for this year's intake, Mike Killian, is the true tourism ambassador. From his post at a total service station in Saldanha Bay, he provided a warm, viscous welcome to our tourists that our tourists deserve. And we are extremely proud of the example he is setting for the region. Speaker, tourism is just one of the legs that our Project Khulisa initiative aimed at growing the economy and creating jobs. In 2014, we set ourselves a target of growing jobs in agri-processing by 100,000. We met that target in 2016. However, this sector has been exposed to both avian influenza and the drought and has subsequently seen the shedding of some of these gains. Despite this, we are still showing a net gain of 37,370 jobs in agri-processing and 60,000 primary agricultural jobs. Speaker, through Project Khulisa, we have managed to mitigate some of these negative effects of the recent natural and disease-borne disasters on this sector, although there is much more to be done. The impact of the drought in agriculture is currently estimated at 5.9 billion rand. Its devastation is undeniable. In my Agricultural Department budget speech next week, I will discuss the programs that we've put in place to alleviate pressure in the short term and safeguard ourselves against the threat of climate change in the long run. But the drought also presents us with a unique opportunity to stimulate a new economy in our province, driven by the private sector, which is centered around preserving this important resource. The growth we have seen in private sector water-saving services and technology has been nothing short of incredible and has shown the innovative, adaptive and responsive nature of our economy and its entrepreneurs. These new services and technology are backed up by the services offered by our drought economic work stream, which is supporting businesses to understand their consumption patterns, recognize potential saving opportunities, and finally, to augment their own water supply. Our partnership with Green Cape in offering these services has been instrumental. They have directly assisted 563 businesses with advice on water-related matters. In the next few weeks, they will be launching their 20s brought about by the unprecedented water crisis we are facing. Green Cape has continued its other important work, most notably the green economy and waste sectors. As a result of their hard work, the National Minister of Trade and Industry has announced that the designation of the Atlantis Special Economic Zone will take place in this financial year. So far, 680 million rand in private sector investment have already been made, and there are at least 5 potential investor applications to land, which we are currently busy processing. We are especially proud of this team for being announced as the runner-up in the Circular Awards, which were held in Davos this year at the World Economic Forum. The award was for their work in the waste economy for an industrial symbiosis project through which the waste materials of one business are recycled for the use in the manufacturing process of another. And for this, both DDAT, who links through to Green Cape, but the Green Cape team, my hearty congratulations. Well done. A silver recognition globally is outstanding. Well done. Speaker, in addition to the strong role it has played in bringing more tourists to our shores, our partner Wesgro, which is the Western Cape's official investment, trade and tourism promotion agency, has also done sterling work in securing investment and landing trade deals. In the past year, they have secured a total of 20 investments with an estimated value of 3.3 billion rand, resulting in the facilitation of 1,346 jobs. Thank you, Premier. In collaboration with a host of partners, they also launched the Cape Investor Centre midway through last financial year, which has already landed 40 million rands worth of investment into the province. On the trade promotion front, they facilitated the signing of 80 business agreements with a combined export value of 11.5 billion rand, resulting in the facilitation of a further 1,278 jobs. Wesgro has also played an important role during this drought, ensuring that travellers, investors and businesses know that the Western Cape remains open for business. Speaker, in our other Khwelisa priority areas like oil and gas, we, together with the Department of Trade and Industry, have invested over 500 million rand in the development of a core industrial infrastructure at the Saldanha Bay IDZ. The oil and gas and marine sector supported 8,320 jobs in 2016 and contributed 1.3 billion rand to the province's gross value add. The Saldanha Bay IDZ has signed a lease agreement with Transnet National Ports Authority in the last month, and this is the first step in making the IDZ a reality. We are currently focused on providing upskilling opportunities to meet the needs of investors, and we are looking at ways of cutting red tape for businesses in this space. This includes the exploration of a customs control area. Speaker, our red tape reduction unit continues to do excellent work in ensuring that we are the easiest province to do business in South Africa. When we established this unit, we set ourselves the bold goal of realizing 1 billion rand in savings by 2019. And current estimates show that we are not only on track to meet this target, but we will surely exceed it. The unit has now managed over 8,000 cases with a resolution rate of over 85%. Our ongoing tracking tool shows that we have already saved businesses 600 million rand. They've helped businesses that import eggs and businesses that export boats and businesses all in between. Competitiveness of the economy at the same time. In Switzerland, which is #1 on the NSED Global Talent Competitiveness Index, 70% of young people are involved in an apprenticeship-based learning system. That is why in 2016, the Western Cape government introduced the apprenticeship game changer. By identifying the specific needs of an industry in our province and training young people to meet that demand, we can deal with two of the most pressing problems in our economy: unemployment amongst our young people and skills shortages. Our data at the end of December shows that a total of 6,782 learners registered on the workplace-based programs, such as apprenticeships, since we set our targets in April. Even more importantly, these learners are taking part in 62 of the 91 specific occupations linked to the 5 priority sectors of the Western Cape. We aim to put at least 13,221 young people in similar programs by March next year. And to do this, we're focusing on making it easier for business to take on apprentices. Our red tape call center is on hand to take queries from interested businesses. Any employer that receives a learner grant from a CETA in 2018 should contact the unit to see how best to get these apprentices on board. Our work readiness program, Speaker, will be receiving a 3 million rand boost as we implement the new approach that links employers, CETAs, and our funding for a customized work readiness program which can accommodate 300 young people over the next year. Speaker, I would like to congratulate some of the really inspiring young people who are all doing our province proud. ABCD Concepts won the Ikasi Bright Ideas competition. 13-year-old Zintli Masoko has won a full TEDx scholarship, and Tula Mnyandi has been accepted into the Spear Arts Academy Mosaic Apprenticeship Program. All of these young people are linked to the Khayelitsha Bandwidth Barn, a township tech incubator that the department supports. It boasts 70 tenants with 6 hot desk spaces, and over the past year has hosted numerous public events and offered ICT skills training programs that have reached about 5,000 people. In addition to 142 grade 10 and 12 girls who were trained in the Code for Cape Town Web Development Program. The Western Cape has set itself a goal of becoming the leading global digital hub, global digital hub. Last year, the Savills World Research Survey on Tech Cities identified 22 cities that have the potential to lead the world in the global tech industry. And I'm proud to say that Cape Town was on this list. The fourth industrial revolution is upon us, Speaker, and we need to be ready to respond to this game-changing hyper-connectedness. Last year, we supported EdTech to set up their first business incubator in Africa, based here in Cape Town. We are partnered with the Department of Education, thank you, Minister, teachers, the business sector, and local startups, which can be taken through the incubation process with the opportunity to prototype and commercialize their products. We have set aside 2.6 million to drive this initiative in the coming year. In a similar vein, Speaker, we've spotted with the Department of Community Safety, we've partnered with the Department of Community Safety to address safety concerns through the SecuriTech project, which aims to bolster safety issues through technology. In 2015, the Western Cape undertook a digital readiness assessment, which found that businesses lag in their uptake of technology. In response, the department is developing a digital online platform to assist SMMEs to access digital tools and resources to boost their tech readiness. Best of all, when the toolkit launches in the second half of 2018, business owners will be able to do all of this from their cell phones, as we have found that 93.8% of residents in the province access the internet primarily by phone. They will also be able to access the toolkit on site using one of our broadband Wi-Fi hotspots. The cost of internet access in South Africa is still exorbitantly high, which is why we are continuing to grow our public access Wi-Fi offering with Liquid Telecom, the formal Neotel. And Speaker, over 300,000 residents have made use of a monthly free allocation of the 250 megabytes of data available at our 178 hotspots across the province over the past 2 years. This month, we completed the final phase of our Internet Champions project, which trained 332 mostly young unemployed people who deliver basic mobile literacy courses and assist citizens to locate the use of these public hotspots. In total, the project has registered 410,000 people over the 2 years, and a number of champions have moved into formal jobs as a result of their involvement in this project. And this actually goes quite contrary to the previous debate that we heard from the Honourable Opposition, saying that the only connection is government sites for government. It shows you that this is enabling for the population of our city and our region. According to the Director General of UNESCO, Irina Bokova, analysis has shown that in developed economies, 90% of the jobs will require some level of digital skills. Our focus in 2018 will be on providing access to digital skills for our citizens, and the project will kickstart in selected libraries and youth cafes. Thank you again, Minister. In 2015, we established the ICANN Centre in Elsie's River as a proof of concept for the community-based approach in teaching digital skills. So far, we can opening. Speaker, the annual Western Cape Funding Fair, in collaboration with Deloitte, attracted over 1,000 existing and potential entrepreneurs who were able to engage with about 20 funders. Our ongoing investment readiness workshop have to date resulted in more than 20 million rand being raised for entrepreneurial ventures. Our agri-processing supply development program is aimed at increasing business skills and growing the scale and efficiency of businesses. With an investment of 2.5 million, we are able to assist 21 businesses. Of these, 14 have managed to improve their turnover by a total of 18.9 million, creating an additional 87 jobs. One of these businesses is Darling Sweets, which was started as a side venture with some old-fashioned toffee recipes. It has grown to a 500 square meter production facility which employs 21 full-time and 11 part-time staff. The toffee factory, which uses butter as one of its main ingredients, has also become one of Darling's favorite tourist attractions. And I see that some of you were given toffees on your desks. Those who are speaking after me, make sure you put a toffee in your mouth just before you speak. But Speaker, I could go on and on and on about the projects and programs that we've been involved in as a department, and of course going forward. some of those looking back, like the CTICC expansion, helping out the Kango Caves, looking at forward at paleotourism, innovation specifically, and if any of you are interested in innovation, come to First Thursdays next month, the first Thursday of the month. Innovation will be a focus in the ministry. Right to energy or health tech. There are so many projects and programs that we are involved in. But Speaker, for the 2018-19 year, DDAT has been allocated a total budget of 433.46 million rand. Program 1 administration receives 65.22 million. Program 2, Integrated Economic Development Services, is allocated 44.5 million. Program 3, which is Trade and Sector Development, will receive 48.76 million. Program 4, Business Regulation and Governance, gets 10.8 million. And Program 5, Economic Planning, will receive 140.85 million. Program 6, Tourism, Arts and Entertainment, is allocated 54.78 million, and Program 7, Skills Development and Innovation, will receive 68.98 million. This budget will help create opportunities for residents of the Western Cape to thrive through the development of new skills, the creation of new jobs, and the opening of new entrepreneurship ventures. We will open these opportunities by focusing intensively on Project Khulisa and game-changer goals that we have set ourselves by partnering with the private sector and other spheres of government. Speaker, in ending, I would like to thank the HOD, Solly Fourie, and his team at the department for their hard work and dedication in making all these programs possible. They have been a nimble and dedicated team, and the outcome of their efforts is definitely evident in our economy. I would also like to take this opportunity to congratulate Solly, myself, in this forum for receiving the Gold Award for HOD Batopele Awards in South Africa. And Mr. Fourie, your team, the whole team department receiving a Bronze Award as top department in the country. Thank you very much and very well done. And then lastly, to my office, who continually support me from early in the morning till late at night, unrelenting. I want to really thank you very, very much for that dedication that you give to me, but also that you give to the people of this province. Thank you.
Honourable Member Schaefer.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. To the Minister and his department, good afternoon. I can't help but mirror the sentiments of Minister Wendy here today, because although our job as a committee is one of oversight, I really have to say that this is a good news story. Let me start with the most recent news that the Minister has announced, which was the Cape Town International Airport having received that award for the 3rd consecutive year as Africa's best airport. Now, to put that into context, you really have to understand the competition that this airport faces in the whole of the world. The Skytrax World Airport, will you be patient? The Skytrax World Airport Awards, Deputy Speaker, it looks at 13 million airport survey questionnaires completed by over 100 different nationalities of airline customers, and it covers 550 airports worldwide. It evaluates traveller experiences across different criteria, including check-in, transfers, shopping, security, departure at the gate, amongst others. And I shall reiterate what the Minister said, is to commend Mr. Dion Kluter and AXA with their amazing team for setting a world-class benchmark and for maintaining it for so long. And I'll explain to you why, Member. I will explain to you why I've raised this, particularly in this speech. I know Mr. Kluter quite well, thank you very much. And then, may we also commend Westgrow, through the department, for the past years of vigorously driving the Air Access program to bring direct flights to Cape Town and in turn drive up the tourism numbers. The numbers speak for themselves, Deputy Speaker, with the 13 new routes and 14 expansion routes and 1.5 million two-way seats since 2015. You have to commend where it needs to be acknowledged, and we must do so. This has resulted in a new record for Cape Town Airport's numbers, resulting in a 20% year-on-year increase in international passengers. So you need to understand the link and the partnership between AXA and that of Westgrow and that of the department and the focus of this sector. In 2016, Deputy Speaker, 1,990,000 approximately international passengers were recorded at Cape Town International Airport. In 2017, this figure increased to a record of 2.3 million international passengers, an increase of nearly 500,000. It's incredible stats, Deputy Speaker, and we are only at the starting point. And I can't wait to see the airport's expansion project being completed to really see what the potential for tourism can be in this province. So tourism, as we know, is all about visitor experience and convenience of travel. Both AXA and Westgrow's Air Access work hand in hand, and that's important to stress here, to deliver on the very two important factors when it comes to travellers. And as you can see, the results are quite clear to everyone. So the money that this department puts into Westgrow and tourism as a strategic sector speaks for itself. You see, Deputy Speaker, with a focused approach and the placing of economic promotion with tourism, you don't only see a marked increase in the tourism numbers, but you also see a marked increase in economic growth and jobs for the province. And as Minister Winde has previously reported, there has been a remarkable growth in the belly of the aircraft by 38%. I really like that word, Minister Winde, belly of the aircraft. Because in other words, cargo has increased, which shows more opportunities for exports to be made available. And this is the knock-on effect. I must also commend Westgrow for their WaterWise portal and the organisers of annual tourist events for completely reducing their water footprint and ensuring complete, almost water neutrality in the Western Cape this year. The Cape Town Cycle Tour, the APSA Cape Epic, the Cape Town Carnival, the South African Cheese Festival, the Cape Town International Jazz Festival bring close to about 2 billion combined into the Western Cape economy, creating tens of thousands of jobs, and they need to be commended here. Aside from adhering to water restrictions, these events actually committed to bringing thousands of litres of water into our province so as not to strain our provincial supply. They have now set an international benchmark for waterwise tourism in South Africa, a truly remarkable feat of water resilience to sustain economic security. Deputy Speaker, I'd like to thank Minister Winde for taking up the issue of safety on tourism and tourists. From the spate of the ATM frauds to the safety of tourists along our scenic walks, we must continue to ensure that tourists leave South Africa with a fantastic memory of their journey. Tourism is our rock star. It's a sector that can bring in many low-level skilled opportunities. And for the Minister, we must continue to grow this sector, particularly for the youth. In terms of investment, Speaker, we welcome the announcement of the Atlantis Special Economic Zone. We have already seen the economic impact and jobs that have been created thus far, and the 1.8 billion secured investment going forward, and the work that Green Cape is doing, which will also provide that much-needed growth and jobs to an area where a few years ago was riddled with unemployment. The recent Open Investment Centre shows clearly the collaboration when it comes to investment, which has a positive outcome not only on this province, but also on South Africa at large. We as a committee have taken the National Council of Province delegates to visit the centre, to engage with stakeholders housed there, and I know that any business can walk into the centre and engage with the most professional staff who are highly skilled to helping businesses on all levels. Deputy Speaker, the positioning of the province to becoming the gateway to Africa must remain a key focus. It is right on track with the latest announcement by the President around the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. The agreement by 44 African states reached in Kigali on Wednesday is an opportunity, I believe, good news for the whole of South Africa, which has significantly grown its manufactured exports to the continent, but it has the potential to do a whole lot more. And we know that this department and Westgrow, in partnership with Westgrow, has been doing a great deal of work in this space, and we look forward to engaging with us as a committee on that African growth story. We welcome the work that's already been done by Citi, by the ICANN Centre and Bandwidth Barn regarding youth opportunities. The partnership program that Minister Windy mentioned, the Red Tape Reduction Unit, which takes up calls and answers any questions that employers may have so that they can connect or be connected with young people looking to get on-the-job training. That is really a great idea. Minister Windy, this committee has taken a decision to engage far more vigorously on projects and programs for youth opportunities. And so we look forward to really delving more into this space. And I think to my committee, we have to get out a whole lot more and really see what is going on on the ground, because really it's the best way to assess real economic growth. Speaker, the agri-processing space is still in its infancy in this province. It can only grow from here on, and as more opportunities arise. Westgrow have committed, I see, to growing the sector to over $1 billion in the next 5 years, and we welcome their objective at doing so. They've also identified these key markets that can make the investment numbers a reality, of which agriculture, horticulture, and aquaculture are some of them. But it also talks to the concept of the halal park, where the objective to almost double the Western Cape's halal market share is being aimed for. So we welcome engaging more in that space. Deputy Speaker, I always say every year, that it's quite amazing to see that such a small budgeted department really can leverage their funds and produce the jobs and growth that they do. And of course, it's because of their partnerships with key sectors of the economy, with other spheres of government, and particularly with our private sector. Because without them, Deputy Speaker, this department would not be able to achieve on its own objectives. So I'm pleased to say that President Ramaphosa is not private sector averse. And Deputy Speaker, I can't fault this department on the work they do. Under the current economic climate and the latest growth of 106,000 jobs, although it's an upward battle with water and drought posing severe risk to the growth in this province, we have to commend the work they do. So Minister Windy, I'd like to commend that work, the work that your department is doing for the Western Cape. I must note and commend in particular, as you've mentioned, and re-acknowledge Mr. Salih Fourie for his gold as HOD, because I think it speaks directly to the achievements that this department has received and has attained. His work by national government does not go unnoticed. To our entities in Westgrow and Saldanha Bay Industrial Development Zone and your teams of dedicated staff, we also thank you because you're always open to engaging with us. And in conclusion, Speaker, the DA supports Vote 12, the Western Cape Appropriation Bill for the Department of Economic Opportunities and Tourism. I thank you.
Honourable Nkonde.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I think in the absence of our colleagues on the left, I would hope, Deputy Speaker, you would be generous and donate those minutes this side. As you consider it, it's so unfortunate that the Minister of Finance is not here, so that I think it's important that we do not allow colleagues to mislead this House nor mislead, the people of the province. Because in as far as the issue of the levy that I wish to start with, it is not true that the ANC implemented the fuel levy. Yes, there were discussions about it, and unfortunately, those were different economic conditions. And the conditions of the economy of the Western Cape to date are far different, constrained with drought and water challenges, which actually are affecting farmers' food security. And it's this DA government that is actually pursuing, at this point, the discussion to implement the fuel levy. Honourable Deputy Speaker, Mahatma Gandhi says, a nation's greatness is measured by how it treats its weakest members. This remains true for the SA economy, especially given its project of democracy to realize prosperity for all.
Honourable Member.
We have another meeting inside the chamber. We are busy listening here.
Order. Order. I will keep my eye on that, but the member is not making a disturbance. Member, you may continue. Member Conley, you may continue. Your precious time is running out.
Okay. What we are committed to raise as the ANC to this DA-led government, until convincing us answers with results can state otherwise, is the lack of deliberate redistributive policies to raise income and welfare of the poor and the most vulnerable in our economy, which is women, youth, and people with disabilities who are black and mainly reside in rural and peri-urban areas. The fixation of economic growth on its own is a reflection of dead thinking in this modern day's economic environment, where sufficient evidence is abound to show weaknesses of such an approach. Extremely disappointing is the regurgitation of the failed neoliberal market fundamentalism that was boldly shouted here in this House by the chairperson of this standing committee, that when one asks if local stakeholders have to be engaged on the concept of pick and pay, which Minister was proudly reporting about here, partnership as a mechanism to support local retail sectors, the answer was loud and bold: this is a free market. Interestingly, evidence is there in Guguletu for all to see of the recent attacks and damage to that pick and pay shop when it was caught in crossfire by anger of protests from locals, given the competing interest for demand for service delivery of housing. I'm sure if this government could have heed for the call to consider engaging local stakeholders, such could have been avoided when people understand the logics of certain interventions. But also I must rebut, again, Minister, misleading this House in terms of the job opportunities of Nozinga shop at NY 115, which is exactly what you were talking about, of 15 jobs created there. There are 3 new jobs, 2 cleaners, 1 is a security, and others are people that have been moved from other pick and pays to work there. So there's nothing like 15 new jobs that have been created there. So you must not mislead this House. Thus, economic growth must not be viewed an end itself, but means for increasing incomes and well-being of people. Growth patterns matters too. As such, growth, we assert, entails structural transformation within and across sectors of the economy. We seek to see such leadership from this department as it relates with identified priority sectors as defined by Project Khulisa. One then asks questions regarding the role played by this government in its revenue allocation to enable and facilitate economic development, once again, for those vulnerable in the economy. This is an old known fact that markets can't provide everything. There is nothing like invisible hand. And as such, government role in the economy cannot be downplayed, especially in developing economies of like ours. We wait the study mentioned by Minister and his department for the 2018-19 financial year to focus on understanding the township or small towns economy, as they refer to it as the informal economy. The chairperson of the Western Cape African Farmers Association, also a fruit farmer, in response to the Honourable Premier in Hesopa, blames this provincial legislature as he argues that the agri-processing in this province reflects the apartheid economy, where there are no black-owned wine sellers, no black-owned dried fruit processors, no black-owned dairy processors, no black-owned fruit processors, as the agri-processing is still widely owned. Hopefully, Minister Windy, you can provide this House answers to these claims and take responsibility as both Minister of Economic Development and Agriculture. A recent visit to us by an organization called Western Cape Caterers also indicated a constraint small and black caterers experiences in the procurement of some departments such as Health, Department of Social Development, amongst others, where a new requirement of strictly halal has been placed on all specifications for catering RFQs. One wonders how public procurement can be used to deliberately exclude others, let alone lack of sensitivity in appreciating religious imposition this requirement brings. whilst exploring the halal market opportunities both locally and internationally is welcome, one assumes that the market intelligence should exist in this department to guide provincial departments' approach as and when in as far as readiness to roll out, whilst allowing officials of supply chain to unilaterally impose things as policy where they are not. We await the report that Provincial Treasury and the Premier's Office to share with this Parliament through the standing committees on this matter and action taken since it has been elevated to them. State procurement is one way to help trigger economic development and realize the socio-economic objectives of redistributive policies of the state. Whilst this department does not implement EPWP, the 29 million of integrated grant and the 47 million in the social sector, EPWP, how is this used to derive more than the short-term jobs such projects in the EPWP provide? Also to consider linking those entrepreneurs or potential entrepreneurs in those programs through enterprising their skills that they acquire. This goes for the 106 million of this department's goods and services to help support in a meaningful way and create new enterprises through supplier development where relevant, as we await the Provincial Treasury Procurement Framework reported here earlier on. Beyond the red tape, Minister, information session, how is this department driving business linkages? But also when you talk about the skills game changer, which is welcomed with the numbers that you are giving, the training is training for jobs. Have these jobs already been identified, or are young people just been placed to be trained and we await a goodwill from companies to then absorb them? And again, are these programs also trying to nudge and ensure that these young people who were interested, they can once again enterprise their own skills and actually be job creators than only mere looking for jobs themselves? More than 2 million in the city of Cape Town is still employing the services of a company found guilty of collusion, even as the provincial government approaches the National Treasury to have the cleaning company blacklisted as a result of a Competition Commission ruling. The cleaning company, which is Top N NOS, was found guilty along with Zara Cleaning Services of price fixing in a tender submitted to the department. This department is still far to optimize its mandate and strategic positioning as a cross-cutting department to help pioneer cutting-edge entrepreneurial strategies and programs to optimize value from other departments for economic development. These are done in other provinces, and case studies are abound of success. Please ask, as you bask in La La Land to govern Gauteng, do yourself a favor and visit the provincial government in Gauteng there, and they can actually show and demonstrate to you how they've created real value for the local economy. The contrast between Kayamnandi and the town of Stellenbosch is too much. It is really a dream deferred, as Thabo Mbeki indicated in his Two Nations speech in 1996. This is the same contrast you will find between the southern suburbs and Cape Town's Cape Flats and townships. The poverty, unemployment, and inequality that define everyday life in Kayamnandi are a legacy of apartheid and present-day deliberate exclusion in Stellenbosch. The Tourism BE Act indicated that there is a need to transform the tourism economy as a means of integrating the previously disadvantaged as product owners and customers. Yet you will still find blacks excluded from meaningful participation in the Western Cape tourism sector. How many wine estates are black-owned where you can have your wedding reception at? How many shops are black-owned by the V&A waterfront? And how many establishments in Kemps Bay are black-owned? The lodges and hunting industry is one of the most lucrative 1 billion industry in the country, yet you do not find any black-owned lodges with conference facilities in the province, nor do you see black-owned hunting outfitters bringing out tourists from Texas and Europe who in turn spend millions in wildlife resources. All these profits are not redistributed amongst the people because they do not own land to conduct these hunting operations. And that is why we actually welcome the discussion on the land expropriation, which has been proposed by the chairperson of the standing committee. We will be ready as the ANC in that debate. The SA economy created over 2.5 million jobs between Q3 of 2010 and Q4 of 2017. Of the net new jobs created, Gauteng contributed 27% of these, while the Western Cape contributed just 19% of the net new jobs. The Western Cape economy contributes approximately 13% of the SA's national GDP. Consequently, any slowing of economic growth in the province will have a significant impact in the SA GDP. The biggest impact thus far has been the effect on employment in the agricultural sector, with the Western Cape having already shed about 84,000 jobs in 2017. Given that many of these jobs are semi-skilled, this will have a significant impact on poor households, which also typically experience more difficulty in finding new jobs, even when economic conditions do improve. A credit downgrade looms for Cape Town, and we appreciate the update that the Minister of Finance provided here. But it's very interesting and always present the double standards of the Democratic Alliance, because when there was an issue of the economic downgrade of South Africa here, instead of considering that approach and actually that matured understanding to engage the credit agencies, all what the DA was doing was to go on papers and creating petty politicking so that they can outsmart the ANC. Economist Mike Schussler said a downgrade of the city's credit rating would be dire for the local economy and it would have profound consequences for the whole of South Africa. The DA's failure to plan and implement water demand management system earlier in place has the potential to harm the province's credit ability. Such negligence. Any real conversation, Deputy Speaker, of this government with those affected on how such jobs can be saved, but mainly alternative ways to redirect such capabilities. We are all here aware of a myriad of conversations with commercial farmers on how to rescue, support them financially and otherwise. So what is important is also engagement with also the agri-workers to find ways of how those jobs can be saved and how they could be redirected in terms of new skills required using the digital economy, as you were mentioning, Minister. A political will remains the bridge between the SMMEs in the province and their ability to meaningfully participate in the economy. This budget remains a reflection of who the DA is and what DA is about. A petty party that has no real agenda to change the past, actually to use blame game to resist and delay any real transformation of the apartheid structure. Shared prosperity and growth must be at the center of this department and must reach those that are not well off. We can't speak about equal opportunities for individuals without efforts to alter the circumstances such as family origins, race, gender, place of birth, or social group a person is born into. I thank you.
Minister Windy to reply.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, I want to thank the participants in this debate, also the work that the Standing Committee has done in interrogating the budget. Obviously, that is part of the process of getting it here to us for this debate, but then, of course, to finally vote on this before we start our new financial year. Again, Minister of Finance, this is the only province that does that, finalizes our debates, our budget votes, and signs off on our new budget before the new year starts. Thank you very much to the chair of the committee for the role that you play, the points that you've raised. Again, obviously that's what I said, but in the budget speech was about safety and an economic development department getting more involved in safety. It's because safety is becoming more of an issue for us. We are seeing it with regard to trying to attract investment into the region. And I perhaps also want to use this opportunity. It's something that we don't normally talk about in the department, or in public, should I say. We talk about in the department, but in public, around the safety support that we give. And we've actually got a team there, not only just in the department, but we've got, and I must recognize Cynthia, Neo, and Ilse. These are people that are out there day and night, Sunday afternoon, visiting people in hospital, going there to really go the extra mile to give support to our tourists that are, either lose a passport or heaven forbid, end up in some kind of accident or some kind of criminal activity that puts them into a very difficult space. And these are the people that go out there and really make a huge difference for our brand, and I must thank them. And obviously this is one of those things through partnership that we need to look at rolling out. You spoke about the free trade agreement, and yeah, we're the only country that's still left to sign this agreement. And quite frankly, we use this platform again, and alongside what you've just said, to call on the President to please, let's sign this thing. Let's get some of this free trade going in our region. If you have a look at the numbers, the trade numbers, we've always focused historically as a core market being Europe, but now our biggest trade market of our export products is Africa. And this kind of free trade zone or free trade agreement will really, I think, start to boost that economy again, really take it to new numbers. I think that you also spent some time talking about AXA, a really good partner, Honourable Dugmore, a national entity, in actual fact a global entity. They operate globally in airports around the world. I was lucky enough to be with them in Brazil when they got that contract to run the airport in Brazil, or airports in Brazil. Really are an outstanding company, and specifically to the people at the airport. I mean, they really go the extra mile, and to win these awards that they win, they get voted by the passengers. I mean, that's the crux. These are passengers traveling all over the world, 122 airlines, I think, or 122 countries that take part in this competition, and in Africa we come out tops year after year. But of course, when you mention AXA and the airport, there is still one issue at the airport, and I said that I take my hat off to them in achieving what they do with the growth that we're seeing. When you've got extra growth, 20% growth on international arrivals, all these new aircraft coming in, that puts pressure on the system at the airport, and we've got investment coming, but right now the pressure's on the system. The weak link at the moment is still our visas and our home affairs dealing with it, and I'm really glad to see that Minister Hanekom has already set the date for the meeting with Minister Gigaba. And interesting, he says he thinks it's going to be a bit easier in the discussion this time around, because the minister took a little bit of sabbatical to go and probably understand some other things in our economy, and I'm sure it's going to be an easier discussion. I also think that that Minister of Home Affairs doesn't have the air cover that he used to have before. He's got different cover above him who thinks differently. So hopefully we do sort that out, because that is the one area that I think we do have a weak point. But I must again say that AXA have done that amazingly well. And then, of course, Wesgro. I saw some more Wesgro people up there, but now a few less. But to Wesgro, again, really great. You spoke about the 38% increase in the underbelly trade. We always end up talking about the seats and the tourism side, but that trade underneath is growing faster than the tourism seat side. And that is very, very important, because those are our new companies that we talk about, those entrepreneurs starting those businesses. They're getting their product out to market, the high-value product, the halal focus, getting that good, high-quality product to market across the world. It's that underbelly stuff that really is making a very big difference. Then with regard to whether the fuel levy was implemented or not, it was a study, and of course this minister in the previous debate spoke about the study, and then he was attacked about the study and why on earth are we doing a study, and then he pointed out that the first study was done under the minister, then Minister Brown, who was the Minister of Finance. It was just a study, and in actual fact, when I came into the finance post, the study was put on the table, but in actual fact, in that very financial year, the then Minister of Finance, Minister Manuel, actually then implemented that fuel levy, that very fuel levy that we wanted to implement in the province nationally. And of course, then it wouldn't have been a good idea to implement it at the same time. And of course, now it's just asking to do that study again, just for some clarity there. You spoke then about, you said economic growth on its own. And I can assure you, if you look through all of these documents, we never talk about economic growth on its own. We always link the growth and jobs together. Because I promise you, we can't just do jobs growth without economic growth. It doesn't work. It has never worked. I do understand the risk, and we always talk about it, of jobless growth. And obviously you don't want jobless growth. That's definitely not what we want in our region. And that's why you will see what we choose, the sectors that we choose to really boost and support. Why? Because they got the highest potential for jobs growth, because that is the most important. And we are very proud then of the numbers that we seem to get. And of course, the growth does equal jobs, because when you see that growth of the airlift and what that does, the 20% or the 11% local growth, you know, these are all contributing factors to those 598,000 new jobs. Those jobs would not be there if there wasn't growth. Then, of course, you spoke about one of the Pick and Pay stores. And of course, it was really, really unfortunate that, you know, some people decided in their protest to burn down Mzoli's. And I mean, that is totally unacceptable. You know, quite frankly, we cannot be doing things like that because of the impact that it has on jobs and on businesses. And of course, the store right next door, it didn't burn down, but it was then, of course, in the midst of all this, the door forced open, and of course, all the stock stolen and taken out. I mean, that's also just totally unacceptable to do that to someone's business. We cannot have that in our system. I'm going to end with the inclusive stuff, and specifically what you spoke. You spent a bit of time on agriculture, and I'll can probably answer that next week as well. But I'll answer that last on the agricultural companies. Jobs and demand-led. We definitely, on the focus areas that we work with, it's definitely got to be demand-led, because I think that's one of our biggest problems in South Africa. Is we have too many skills being produced through the skills pipeline, whether they be FET colleges, whether it be universities, whatever skills we are producing, they are not always demand-led. And that's why we have these huge numbers of 250 or 300,000 graduates who can't find work, 800,000 posts that can't be filled because there's no alignment between the skill and the post. And so definitely everything that we do, okay, we're not focusing on that tertiary space. We're focusing on artisanal. We're focusing on apprenticeships. We're focusing on those pipelines. That's where we're focusing as a province, but it is definitely on demand-led. Our engagements with business, the department engages with those businesses. We find out, you know, we need blockmen, we need chefs, we need whatever those, then we make sure that we are focusing our support, because it doesn't help going through all of that work and not being able to find a job. That really is soul-destroying, and that's why we have to be demand-led. You mentioned about the cleaning company and the blacklisting. I remember that. Interesting thing for me is that company, or both those companies, had substantial fines given to them because what they did was wrong. But I kept on getting pressure from the ANC to say, blacklist, blacklist, blacklist these guys. And I seriously felt, I looked at it and I thought, you know, here's two black-owned companies, and they have done something wrong, and they got a substantial fine through the legal process. And I thought that fine was sufficient punishment, but why put them out of business totally? Why blacklist them and put them out of business? Anyway, the process obviously was dealt through a National Treasury way, and they were blacklisted. But still, I didn't feel that was necessary with having a fine as well. I thought, yeah, but they were fined for doing something wrong. And I thought that was sufficient punishment, because obviously those businesses are now put out of business. If they employed staff, they were put out of business. And of course, what's more is that they were black-owned businesses. And I would have rather seen support for them post their fine to get them to work. Then, of course, you spoke about the credit downgrade and what happened last time and this time, and I'm meeting with Moody's. I'll let Minister Meyer speak about that, but you know, at the last downgrade, we did two things. One is Minister Meyer and his team pulled in Westro, myself, and other players, and we met with the Reserve Bank, because the Reserve Bank governor said, hang on a second, we need to see what's happening in the Western Cape. And that was very interesting for me, how a Reserve Bank governor wanted to engage in that way, because we just received a downgrade. But then, of course, Moody's, and the reason that we proactively engaged with Moody's was because they wrote about our risk, the drought, and affecting the two main sectors, agriculture and tourism. And it was a proactive engagement. But when you talk about the Cape Town's Moody's report, in actual fact, the day that we met Moody's was the day after they put their report out on Cape Town. They'd already put it out, and it was actually showing the kind of management and leadership that Cape Town had put in place around the drought, and actually commended the city for doing that. So that report is already out. Then if we get to the agricultural businesses and jobs, and you know, it's difficult, you've got to be careful when you make sweeping statements about you know, black-owned businesses, processing plants, etc., etc. So I thought what I'd like to do, you know, we take black-owned brands to market because specifically we want to see the redress in the system. We want to create an inclusive economy. The work that we do as a department is to change the face of our economy. We need to make sure it is inclusive. So let me just go through a list of the black-owned wine companies and wine labels that we take to market in China, that we take to market across Africa. And they are Adama, Asalina, Bayede, Blowfly Wines, Cape Dreams, Carmen Stephen Wines, Compagniesdrift, and that's not only wine producing, that is actually an agri-processing plant. The CEO, she used to be a farm worker, now she's the CEO of that agri-processing plant. De Bos Handpicked Vineyards, Dorrance, Eastbound, Enaleni Wines, Epicurean Wines, Fairview, Fives Reserve, House of Mandela, Isivunu Wines, Jan Harmsgat, Cab Wines and Mountain Breeze, Koopmans Kloof, La Rick Mull, Land of Hope, Latita Wines, Libby's Pride, Mahudi Wines, Milk Wines, Parda Kloof, Poker Hill Vineyards, Rimongo Wines, Sesfikile, Seven Sisters, Cezani Wines, Stella Winery, Stellan Rist, Tesla's Dull Wines, Tundi Wines, Bridge of Hope Wines, Tembi & Co. Wines, Township Winery,
Order.
Tokozani, Vunani Wines, and Woman in Wines.
Order. Order.
So, Speaker,
Order. Honourable David, where there's wine and where there's labels, the Minister will respond to that.
So, Speaker, not all of these wine labels own their own farms. And not all of these wine labels own their own processing plants. Not all of them own them. But more and more are owning their own farms and their own processing plants as it gets reversed back into the economy. Because the one thing specifically in agriculture, you want to hear the list again, okay? Because the one problem in agriculture is that barriers to entry are very high. Because to plant vineyards takes a long time and a lot of investment. And the real work that the department does, the team in agriculture, and we'll talk about this in agriculture further, is that they help with getting market access to start to create a brand,
Conley, you've had your turn.
and that brand over time reverses back. But of course, what happens is they were helped initially, and they've reversed back, and now they are starting to expand because it is much easier from an investment point of view through that process. And so we will continue to work and support these businesses in making sure that they grow so that we can redress the space in which we find ourselves. We can create a shared and an equitable economy. We will work very hard